Man, what a week. I can't believe I was captured for like 3 days. I'm so glad to be home. Oh, man, I woke up really early. This is when the fairies like to roam around. I wonder when the old man wakes up.
Hey!
Oh, hey, what's up, little fairy?
Where have you been?
Well, I've been adventuring.
Ooh, I like adventures.
Yeah, adventures are fun, but not all of them.
Why? Did something happen to you?
Yeah, I guess you can say that.
Can you tell me what happened?
Well, it's a long story, but I have the time. Let me go get my book. Alright, this is my diary. Don't laugh. If you laugh again, I'm not gonna tell you the story.
Oh, sorry.
Alright, let me tell you the story of my buddy Porkchop. I'm friends with the pig, and his name is Porkchop. I've known him throughout my entire lifetime the moment I met him, because he's the only pig that I know that can talk to me. He's like a brother to me. But everything changed the moment I realized I was alone in the middle of the ocean. How I got to the middle of the ocean was because we were forced to leave our kingdom. That kingdom was treating everyone horribly wrong, and I was one of those peasants. Yes, I could admit it. I was poor, living from bread to bread. I never had a real meal. I can't go into details of how the king died, but let's just say Porkchop and I escaped. So we escaped the kingdom, but then I needed a disguise. Luckily, we found a store which was selling masks. After that, everything was going according to plan. It was great. We found ourselves a disguise. We found a ship that was going to take us outside the kingdom, and we were going to leave all our problems behind. Everything was going so well until something crazy happened. I could still hear the people screaming. I could hear all the pain. Because what we saw was the biggest thing I've ever seen. And it just destroyed our ship. Since then, that's when I woke up in the middle of the ocean, realizing what happened to my best friend, Porkchop. I then woke up with some help of some doctors and nurses from a village known as Applegrace. And I didn't expect me to be trapped in an island, especially an island that there's no way of getting out of. After leaving those doctors, I then found the village. It's a small village, really. And that's when things started getting worse. I start to realize that there's different cliques inside this island. There's humans, there's orcs, there's monsters everywhere. The humans told me orcs are bad, and the orcs tell me we're bad. There's just so much little problems within this small island that I cannot get out of. So I was captured by some orcs, and the following morning I woke up inside their castle. There was another human inside there, so I wasn't the first one, but he was already looking like he's dying, and he was really hungry. The orcs took all of my items and expected me to stay within their jail cell, but they made one little mistake. I figured out that there was a breakable block underneath the bed, so I was able to escape. As for the other human, I soon returned and help him out, eventually. I then made my way up all the way up the castle since it was kind of dangerous exiting from the front. There was a bunch of orcs, but I saw my house from way up there, and I realized something, that there's plenty of houses around the island, but there's a new, huge tree that grew on top of my house overnight while I was gone. I then went to Applegrace, got some supplies like swords. This time I could fight the orcs if they come back. And now that there's a big, huge tree outside my house, I can make myself a tree house. I went to sleep, and from there, that's when I met someone special. She was the harvest goddess. She thanked me for helping out vegetation. She was a goddess of nature, so she wants me to protect the island by using resources like saplings and flowers and stuff. And that's how I met you, little guy.
Yay! I remember. We live inside the big tree.
That's right, that's your guys' home. She gave me amazing powers, so I could cut down trees in a single swoop. That could be very useful in the future. Now with that ability, I decided I'm gonna make myself a treehouse. I got a large tree, why not? I'm gonna be much more safe from orcs, especially that I got captured on the same day. But while making my new treehouse, I realized Apple Grace was in trouble. I saw the leader, he was huge, and I felt so bad for Apple Grace and Elder Lucas because this man destroyed all of their land. It was ridiculous. There was nothing I can do. So I stayed in my house another day, waited to hear from what happened to Apple Grace. Turns out everyone from the village hid underground. Therefore, the orcs got bored and they left. But here and there, once every week, an orc would like to come bother me and mess with me while I'm working on my next project. And it gets me frustrated. So what would I do for revenge is I would sneak into their place and take down some of them and steal all of their goods. That's what I did on that day. After a long day of messing with orcs, while sleeping, someone encountered me. He was a bounty hunter, yet he didn't tell me much about his past. But all I know is that he was on the same ship that I was on when I lost Porkchop. He was there when we escaped. He followed Porkchop and I think his goal was to probably turn me in. But now that he's trapped in the same island as I am in, that's why he's talking to me, because I think he needs my help too. I became friends with him because we could kind of relate. He knows my buddy Porkchop. He was on the same ship as I, so it wasn't hard clicking with him. I allowed him to stay with us for the time being until we can escape. And later that day, I realized that there was still someone trapped in the orc's castle, so I ventured off to save him. And I did. I saved the guy. He was really happy to escape. Later that night, when I returned home and told the bounty hunter the news, he told me that we're going on top of the mountain. I've seen the mountain a couple times, and I saw some strange building on top, so maybe that was a clue of how to escape the island. So the next day, we went over there. The bounty hunter and I became more friends working our way up that mountain. You can see everything from that mountain, from the waterfalls to the big tree to the orcs village. It was really tough to get up there. When we got up there, we saw something pretty insane. It was a robot or a statue. It wasn't even moving. So we left it alone, and I was working my way around this weird looking well when I noticed that there's picture frames, but there's orbs, like crystal orbs, around the perimeter of the well. So I started to think, why are they broken? What happens if you place one that isn't broken onto the item frame? And that's what I did. I had a green orb on me by helping out the people in Apple Grace. So they gave me that, and I just swapped out the broken orb with the fixed orb. And then when I made my way around the robot, it started to move. It was making sounds like bzz, 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 bzz.
Wow, that sounded really realistic.
Thanks. I've been practicing. When I saw that robot get activated, it felt like it teleported me to a different dimension. But it still felt like I was talking to the harvest goddess. Everything was white. Turns out, where I was at was a place called the Great Race Cemetery. The statue that was talking to me is just an old statue from the Great War. He was huge. What happened in the Great War was that there was humans versus the elves versus the orcs versus the endermans versus the knights and the nagas. The human leader at the time went crazy. He wanted all the power. He wanted every weapon in the world. He wanted all the food that he can find, and he turned evil. He then collected all the sacred orbs scattered around the island and therefore used it on himself. The power was too much for him. He then became a big monster. And that monster was confirmed. He was the guy who attacked our ship and separated Porkchop and I. So while the war was still going on, he became a big, huge monster. So all of the nations got together and they found the strongest mage in the island. He sacrificed himself to form a barrier around the island to protect it and push away the evil beast. The only problem is, since he made that barrier, everything could come in except for big, large objects, but nothing can get out. With all that information I was told, now I know the backstory to the island. So I set forth back to Applegrace while they were still getting attacked by more of these evil orcs. I destroyed them all by myself because I was very upset. Days and weeks would go by and I would find some orbs. I help out the people around, try to steal some from the snakes. I would walk around and try to find these little orbs that could get me out of this island. And sometimes little papers would wash up ashore, speaking of new events that are happening. One of these events were like a hunting event where you have to slaughter animals. Yeah, hopefully Porkchop wasn't one of those animals. From this point on, everything was going good. I made me a second house, I had myself a farm for food, and then I fell asleep, hoping that the next day something exciting would happen. And something did. The bounty hunter woke me up and he found a piece of paper. The paper that he found was for me, but it wasn't written in English, it was in a different language. So I couldn't figure out what to do, and that's when I noticed that there was some fairies outside the big tree. You guys moved in.
Yay, I'm in your stories!
Yeah, with your help, you guys were able to read the words. It was given to me by Applegrace. So with your help, you guys were able to point at the location of which I needed to go to, which was number 1. Elder Lucas needed my help, so he sent that letter to me, and all I needed to do was make a waterfall, and therefore he was able to give me another orb. He knows I'm after those. And from there, helping out Elder Lucas, I became one step closer in completing all of the orbs. Later that day, after receiving the orb, I got kinda little bit overambitious. I was gonna set forth up the waterfall with my boat. I decided I wanted to do it. You guys were stopping me, but I felt like everything you guys were saying about the stories of it being impossible to get out was all a story and was not true. But then I realized that it is kinda impossible to escape. It felt so good. I saw a glimpse of the outside world for a second there, and then I crashed into a big purple sphere that just out of nowhere appeared on my face. It was worth a try. I know everyone was upset, the bounty hunter, the fairies, everyone was mad at me, but I wanted to try it out because what if it worked? You never know. On that same day after recovering, I saw that there was a pirate ship next to Applegrace firing at it because they were pirates from the ocean that swept in, and there was guards from the Applegrace and we were fighting them. We were fighting all of the pirates. After dealing with the pirates, it became late. It was like really dark, so I had to go back home. But then, out of nowhere, some girl out of nowhere grabbed me before going back home, and she held a knife towards my neck. It was pretty scary at the time, and she told me I killed her clan. I had no idea what she was talking about, and she told me, was I the boy that was trying to escape? I told her, yeah, what's the big deal? And then I noticed that on her neck, she had herself an orb that I was collecting. It was a purple one that I'm missing. That's all I can remember from that, because that's when she attacked me, and I was knocked out. I woke up, and I found myself in another jail cell. She kept me in here for days. I was starving, and I was getting flashbacks of Porkchop. When you have nothing to eat, your mind starts to bring back haunting memories of when I was with Porkchop and when I was living in peace with him. Regardless of being poor, regardless of eating just one piece of bread, all I was realizing was that I miss my favorite buddy. He's like a brother to me. He was my only family member. I thought I was dead, but then the bounty hunter found me. It was a good feeling, knowing that you do have friends. Regardless of anything that happens to you, the people that are super close to you, they're always gonna be there for you. And that's why the bounty hunter went and looked for me. He took me back home, and he told me that there's some new people that are waiting to meet me outside. He made me some mushroom soup so I can feel better. And that's why I woke up early, because I slept all day yesterday. And that's why I'm here telling you the story of what happened to me and what happened to my buddy Porkchop.
Oh my god! That is incredible!
Yeah, it's a story to remember.
What happens when you escape? Are you gonna take me with you?
Of course, I'm gonna take everyone with me. Oh wait, I think they just woke up. The old man. I have to talk to him today. That's right. Okay, Fairy, I'll talk to you later. Thanks for listening to my story. I'll see you some other time.